12 strange places in Lithuania. But first, thanks for leaving us these suggestions in our comment section. We love making the videos our audience wants to see. We searched deep and found some strange and creepy places in Lithuania. Number 12. Hill of Witches. Lithuania is a small country in Northern Europe with only a population of 2.96 million people. Despite their small size, the country is notable for their medieval vibe and also their extremely fast internet. If you venture off into the forest nearby the city of Yolkronte, you might be slightly startled when you come across the Hill of Witches. If you're already afraid of spooky forests, you probably don't want to come here. Many carvings of fairy tale-like creatures are found here, and as you walk through, you might feel like they're all telling some kind of story. Lithuania was one of the last European nations to Christianize, and their paganistic traditions are still somewhat held onto. The carefully carved sculptures represent characters from their mythology, and they still use this area for festivals in summertime. Take a seat here if you dare. Number 11. The Dead Dunes. All the way in Northern Europe is the last place you'd expect to see a massive dune of sand, but this is located right on the edge of the Baltic Sea. Here in this photo, you see a sign in Lithuanian, most likely welcoming visitors to explore the dramatic change in scenery that most people in this country aren't accustomed to seeing. This is located along a thin stretch of land on the western side of the country, and the shifting dunes were formed from intense winds. These are also known as the Grey Dunes and were occupied by Teutonic Knights as far back as the 9th century AD. This was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and this should help protect the unique fauna that thrives in this area. Number 10. The Pan House. What better way to make your house a little bit more sturdy than to cover it in pots and pans? A mechanical engineer living in the city of Žagarė wanted his home to be as unique as possible. He was very politically outspoken and decided he would decorate his house with pots and pans like you see here in these photos. Under the rule of the Soviet Union, most houses were assigned to look a specific way, and we imagine decorating with pots and pans was not allowed. But once having private land was finally allowed, he set it upon himself to make it as random and eye-catching as possible. This is now by far the most photographed home in the city of Žagarė. Number 9. The Banknote Building. This building is carefully made with more than 4,000 tiles. Located in the second biggest city of Lithuania, known as Kaunas, this is one of Europe's most unique buildings. The 1,000 litas note never actually circulated, and the litas were historically the first currency in Lithuania. Then briefly, the ruble was introduced, and now in present day, they use the euro. This building has been described as the Baltic region's most daring and original construction project. This impressive display of colors makes a beautiful addition to the Kaunas skyline. Number 8. 1 million cent pyramid. After Lithuania exchanged their currency for the euro, they had an abundance of coins they couldn't decide what to do with. So they said, hey, let's build a pyramid. The men who came up with this idea were physics students who collected a large amount of change. The builders of the pyramid took 1 million pennies and stacked them up into the shape of a perfect pyramid. This is found in the capital city of Vilnius. The reconstructed monument reaches up to 1 meter tall, and this took over a week of dedicated work. The Lita pyramid was unfortunately demolished, and the coins were donated to children's charities. Number 7. Grutas Park. Lithuania certainly enjoys their independence from the Soviet Union, but it's difficult to completely wipe off all the influence this dark period of time has left on their small country. Many tourists who are looking to understand a little bit better this period of time when Lithuania was behind the Iron Curtain from 1940s to the 1990s might come to visit Grutas Park. This is located southwest of the capital of Vilnius, and attendance is mandatory. They also have recreations of Soviet gulag camps where prisoners are forced into hard labor like we see in this photo with the man with the machine gun. Number 6. Fort 9. Lithuania has certainly had a rough past, being both occupied by the Nazis during World War II and then the brutal Soviets not long after. The Lithuanians originally constructed a fort, and it was put to use at the beginning of World War I, which is still standing now. During World War II, after the Nazis occupied the area, it was used as a holding ground for people of Jewish descent, and somewhat as a stronghold against the Soviets. It got the nickname of the Fort of Death for its brutal conditions, and then it was reused by the Soviets. Once they had control of the area, it was reused as a prison and a holding ground for political prisoners. The place is now abandoned, but with its rough past, it certainly has to be haunted. Number 5. Monument to the victims of fascism. Now you know the story of the creepy fort, you can begin to understand the importance of this monument, located just outside the city of Kaunas and near the fort. Many graves of the people who lost their lives there went unmarked, and no one is too sure where they are. But this strange-looking monument was erected to those who perished under the deplorable conditions nonetheless. It was erected in 1984 by the remaining Jewish community of Kaunas. The Jewish community of this city was hit pretty hard after the war, and it's difficult to see much traces of them in the country. This was designed by the sculptor Ambrazunas and stands about 105 feet high. It's hard to tell exactly what the monument portrays. You can make out a few faces, but you can use your imagination on this one. Number 4. Grutas Park Bunker. We couldn't cover all the crazy places at the Garudas Park before, and this creepy bunker pretty much deserves its own place on the list. This strange tourist attraction gets even weirder when participants roleplay as political prisoners and are escorted into an old Soviet bunker. The role-playing prisoners are dressed up in gulag outfits and escorted downstairs. We at least hope this is just roleplay. The Soviet officers are wearing authentic-looking gear, and they try to put them through the same psychological torment of what it would be like to be a prisoner. This woman here is signing her confession to the crimes against the glorious Union. Number 3. Plokština Missile Silo. With Lithuania being strategically located on the western part of the Soviet Union, this made an ideal location to place a few nuclear weapons. In 1959, they began to construct the Plokština missile silo that would be capable of practically wiping off London and a lot of Great Britain off the map. This is located in a forest near Platele Lake. This would be able to store an R-12 nuclear missile, the same kind that was made famous during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The site was shut down after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and luckily, it was never put to use. Locals restored this apocalyptic site so tourists can still walk through the creepy-looking tunnels of the bunker. Number 2. Vilnius Old Town. Instead of going through the hassle to build a time machine to visit the medieval times, you can go back in time by seeing the largest preserved old town in Northern Europe. It takes up over 70 streets and features 1,487 medieval buildings in the capital of Vilnius. This is where you'll find some of their old defensive structures, such as the Vilnius Castle Complex, which was functioning from the 10th to the 18th century. You could spend all day here visiting well-preserved historical monuments, but don't forget to see the Gate of Dawn, which served as a city gate into this unforgettable capital. And number 1. Hill of Crosses. Located not far from the town of Šiauliai in northern Lithuania, you'll come across one of the country's most well-known but somewhat strange landmark. It might look like an overcrowded cemetery, but it's not. The history behind this place dates back to the 14th century when crosses were brought here in order to express desire for Lithuanian independence. Crosses were placed in honor of lost independence fighters, and under the rule of the Soviet Union, it became a peaceful symbol of defiance against occupation. There is believed to be over 100,000 crosses scattered on this sacred hill. All this is to remember those who fought until the end for the independence of this unique nation. So which one did you guys think was the strangest? Let us know in the comment section below, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video.